Hello, my name is Smart Roxanne and I am the editor-in-chief of Your Magazine. So, welcome to our very first It's Not Your Fault media campaign discussion. And today we're going to be talking to a lady who has gone through a serious mental health episode, and she's going to be talking to us. She's going to actually talk through what she went through in her episode, and also talk about her recovery. We hope that her sharing her experience with us and you would help to reduce the stigma of mental health within the AfroGlobal community, and will also maybe help support somebody who is going through a similar experience, or provide you with information if you have a close family member or a friend who is going through that experience as well.
Hi everyone!
Hello and welcome to Your Magazine It's Not Your Fault media campaign discussion. Today we have Luyando here with us. People like you who talk about their experience are really making a positive impact in the community, so thank you.
Thank you for having me. That's very kind.
Can you please talk through your experience? So what happened to you? Can you just start from the beginning and just talk us through what happened?
Well, to begin with, I believe I suffered with depression for quite a while, which probably started around secondary school, GCSE time. I just started losing interest in school and stuff like that. Literally, we moved to England, and like my mum was, it was just my mum. My dad was back home as he was still working and stuff. So it was very disruptive, I think, for me.
Back home where? So where are you from?
I'm originally from Zambia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I grew up in Botswana. So I left when I was 2 years old and lived in Botswana till the millennium time, so 2000. Then I came to the UK. My mum came as a nurse, basically training, and then brought me and my brother over. My dad remained for a while. So it was really hard to adjust, I think, and I didn't really consider that as quite a stressful time for me. It was quite, difficult. Yeah. But anyway, so I was depressed for a while. I think I started developing symptoms of depression then. So I would just stay in bed all day and stuff like that. So that was one of the things, and then it was other things that happened. I was sexually assaulted. And I went to the police about it several months later. And it was so distressing for me, the whole thing, reporting it, everything. The way they handled it as well was awful. But so I just started to isolate myself a lot and stuff like that. And one day I had a psychotic breakdown.
Can you just talk about the breakdown? What happened?
I remember one incident where I had to, after reporting my sexual assault, the police had visited my home and came to tell me that they'd arrested my brother for something. And that triggered it that day. I remember feeling paranoid and thinking the police were stalking me. They'd just come and showed up to my house to see what I'm doing. And I went upstairs and I was listening to the radio and I heard a report about sexual assault. And I was like, oh, that's the guy, they've caught him. So I ran to my mum, I was like, they've caught him, listen to this, I heard it on the radio. And she was like, what are you talking about? And I went on Google and I was like, look, there must be an article somewhere, nowhere to be found. So I was like, oh my god, the police knew I was listening to the radio and they put that voice in there, whatever. And then it just spiraled from there, and I started having all these thoughts about the world ending. Went on Facebook, like, you know how Kanye is writing things on Facebook. My mum was the first person to say, like, we need to be in hospital, she's not okay.
Because your mum's a nurse?
She's a nurse, yeah.
She's a mental health nurse, or just a general nurse?
She was a general nurse, but she's now a midwife.
Okay, so she probably had a little bit of understanding.
I think so.
About,
But I feel like when it's your own child, you kind of denial, and you're just kind of like, you just don't know how. I think that's what my dad was like. He was just kind of, no, she's fine, don't call the hospital. She relished it because I was so depressed. And then when the mania, which is what I understand, it was mania and psychosis came, it was liberating for me. I was just like, I want more of this. So I just continued in that way, and when she contacted the hospital, they were just like, just give her sleeping pills, here, treat her at home, she'll be fine, she just needs to sleep. Wouldn't take the pills. I was so paranoid, I thought I was being poisoned. And I think I took some and it didn't work.
So, can you tell us what you've been diagnosed with and how you feel about that? been diagnosed?
I've been diagnosed with bipolar type 1 due to the nature of my episode. I had all these grandiose beliefs about myself, my family, living with a black royal family. And I was while I was in hospital, I was rapid cycle, so I'd come in and be like, I'm Miss Universe, as in the queen of the universe, and the next minute I'm just like, I can't even like make eye contact and talk to people. And then my doctor was like, I think you've got bipolar because you're rapid cycling. So my therapist, she was kind of like, I don't think you've got it because you went through a lot, it's just stress. I felt like we just put labels on things when actually there's a lot of things that could have caused this stuff, and you shouldn't put a label on someone just because of that. Whereas, and then at the same time I was like, am I just being in denial? Maybe I need this label so I can treat it appropriately. So I've had to find the balance of the two. And it's unfortunate because if I didn't have the label, I wouldn't have access to the care that I need. So if I came in, I feel like because of the label, I'm able to get all the treatment I need. If I didn't have it, I wouldn't have it. So it's important to me in that aspect. But at the same time, I feel like it's not something that defines me. So my family were amazing, and what I'm grateful for is how calm they were about the whole thing. It hasn't devastated them, because I think that would be really hard for me to deal with if I felt I'd affected them badly by having that. Very understanding, and I think that really aided my recovery and was why I was released quite quickly as well.
So how long was you in hospital for?
Only 3 weeks, a month.
3 weeks?
Yeah.
And this happened, this was when? Like, how many years ago was this?
It was now, I think it's now 5.
5 years ago.
2014. Is that 6 years now?
6
Oh,
years?
yeah. It's going to be 6 years in April, basically.
Or?
Yeah, I was sectioned under Section 2
Okay.
by the Mental Health Act. And
What was that like? What was that experience like?
I want to say thank goodness I was not in my right state of mind, because it didn't affect me so much. But yeah, the police were called because it reached a point where I was so paranoid, and I don't know if you've watched The Truman Show with Jim Carrey.
I think I have. Yes.
Where he thinks he's being filmed and like his life is staged and stuff. So I believed that I could hear cameras in my house, and these health visitors would come to see what was going on, and they thought I was fine, so they were leaving. And as we were leaving, I followed them out with a knife from the kitchen. Yeah. So I was like, you know, if I wave this out in the street, the police are going to show up. That's what I believed. So I was like, I'm being filmed. Watch this, everyone. So I was performing or something. They didn't know that. They just saw me coming out with a knife, ran in their cars, and my dad had to come and try and like remove it off me and stuff. And then the police were called, and I was in handcuffs. So I was put in the back of the police car, van, shall I say, and taken to the hospital. First thing I remember is being taken to a calming room. It had a sign that said calming room. It's a giant beanbag in the middle of the room, and I'm sat down, and there's 2 nurses, one on each side, holding me like this, and we're all waiting around, and someone comes in with syringes, and yeah. And then I remember seeing the syringes being laid on the beanbag, and I just blacked out. So what was that? So I remember blacked out. About 2 weeks later, I started gaining consciousness. I think it was consciousness. I remember.
So the medication literally knocked
I
you
was
out.
and I realised I'd been there 2 weeks and I didn't know. Yeah. So I remember just coming around a little bit, being in the bath. They had like this whole bath thing, and I think it's for disabled people because it's got a chair, like they sit here in it, and they're like it's electronic or whatever. And the nurse was bathing me, and I was just like, what's happening to me? Am I dead? Like, are my legs working? Why am I in this tub? Slowly I started gathering, like, gauging where I was, and then someone slapped a letter on the table for me at breakfast, and it was addressed to me, and I was like, okay. So I opened it, it said, you've been sectioned under the Mental Health Act. Do you wish to appeal? I was like, yes, I'm gonna appeal. Sectioned, I need to appeal this, and then fortunately my dad's friend's a doctor, and he was there, and he was like, if you appeal, you're going to be here like 6 months waiting for an answer. Don't appeal, just wait, get out. So I didn't. And that was.
Tell me, what was your experience like with the nurses and the carers? Did you experience any differences between
Right, yeah. So what I picked up on in hospital, I was the only black patient there, I've noticed, and I didn't feel I was treated any differently from other patients. And it was just based on your behaviour, really. I felt like if you were being disruptive, you got treated accordingly, basically. And what I found interesting is because a lot of people ask me, oh, do you think we should have more black nurses and black psychiatrists and stuff? I was like, at that time, all I wanted was help.
Yeah.
And while I was in hospital, the only nurse I didn't get on with was black, unfortunately. She was a black nurse. And I don't really understand what it was. I don't know if it was just her own temperament. But I feel personally, she could not see past me being someone disruptive. She just saw me as someone wilding out and being disrespectful. And she couldn't see me as a patient. I just think culturally maybe she felt I was being disrespectful because I was arguing with my mum a lot, and it was just like she would say like, this girl's rude, you know?
Do you think that she kind of related to you differently because she was black and you was black? Do you think that was a bit of a...
I think that's what it was. And I was probably when I first got there, I was probably the most like disruptive patient. So maybe she felt like, oh, being a black girl, we should like be calm. I don't know.
Have a bit more respect.
Have a bit of respect.
Because there is like in that, you're expected to be more respectful towards your elders and stuff like that. Yeah. I mean, in a way, she probably treated you like a daughter or a niece. Not necessarily a good thing because then
They don't believe in depression.
They
don't believe in depression. Yeah, you're a spoilt child.
Yeah, literally.
In a way.
Literally. I think that's what she thought. She thought it was her job to punish me and keep me in line, I think.
Believe in depression, which is kind of the religious beliefs, spiritual beliefs. There's a big thing, right? It's not like they don't understand that mental health is actually a
medical condition,
a biological condition. So that's a big deal, and I think it's interesting that black carers as well have that relationship with black patients. And
I feel like I'm grateful that I didn't have all black nurses, because if they all treat me like that, I don't think I would have had the best outcome with my recovery, because I would have just felt misunderstood, whereas the other doctors I had were quite compassionate and understood me and didn't judge me. I said the worst things and they just look at me like, you know, okay, right? Like I wasn't looked at like I was less than or I was causing them a problem, and that's how I calmed down.
So you think
that
should
so
be more
important, like feeling as a patient you're heard is a turning point for you, honestly. If you've got people that can understand you.
Okay, good. So are you still on medication? Do you mind talking about that? Or you don't have to.
No, I don't. I went to my GP yesterday and I've just been prescribed a new antidepressant. So if I'm a bit like dozy today, that's why. I've had a day of work and I've been tired all day and it's been in my system. I think it's just been a bit of a shock today, so I'm a bit drowsy. So yeah, initially I was resistant to it, but I understood it. Because I trusted my consultant, who was my dad's friend, I knew he had my interest in mind, and he told me I need to take it a minimum of 2 years at least for it to actually get me across there without a relapse, basically. So I had that, and I've had to deal with the challenges. So I started a very large dose and gradually came off it initially, feeling I didn't need it. And then when I felt the medicine couldn't help me, everything, I have an appreciation for it, basically. Because I was very determined to be like, look how quick I got off my medication, do you know what I mean? Just to prove a point that I didn't need this. But if I had something, I've taken now, knowing that I have something that's going to help me, which I feel a lot better in. I'm drowsy today, but the chatter in my brain is not going on at the moment. Whereas I can get in, have this interview, do my job, and not feel like I'm being judged, not feel like all the negative thoughts I was having. That is amazing to have as a tool. I feel like it's a tool, it's a crutch. I don't feel I'm having a total dependency on it. Let's not do away with it either. Let's not demonise medication.
So you mentioned work.
Yeah.
So we were talking about this earlier.
Yeah.
Have you experienced any sort of discrimination in regards to work? Because you're working now, aren't you?
Yeah.
And what was your experience getting back into work after going through that experience?
And does my first job when I first got out and was in recovery, I was like, I don't want to mention it. On when you're applying and and it asks you for your health conditions, do you have any disabilities, and depression is one of them. I was like, I'm not putting that down. Do you know what I mean? I skipped that because I felt like, it's not a disability to me. And then I was still in the early intervention service for 3 years while I was working, and I was just like, this is something it's a big deal to me. It's my true story, and it's not something that's quickly gone away with. I was in therapy for 2-3 years following that. There's no way I can keep quiet. There's no way I can keep this a secret. And I felt the more I opened up about it, the more support and help I got. The more I've opened up that conversation, my managers will come back to me and be like, I've had anxiety, I'm on medication. My colleagues were the same. We're very open about it with each other, and that's been the major support for me. And even when I got really unwell, I got really down, they helped me get signed off for some work for some time, and also they have we've got private healthcare. They referred me to a therapist. I had like one of the best therapists ever. Work has been a great support tool for me as well.
Amazing. So, do you mind talking about your romantic relationships and how your mental health
Where are
has...
they? Depression, you just are so critical of yourself, everything. So I feel at this moment like it has had a big knock-on effect on me. I don't know how to bring it up in relationships. Do you know the thing with me? I put it in jokes. Like I put a meme out. In jest. Do you know what I mean? I put it out there. I have a very hard time being vulnerable and being like, even with my family, if I'm having a really bad day, I don't talk to them about it. I isolate myself, and then I'll probably call one of the helplines or something and talk to a stranger. I feel really difficult. I find it harder talking to people that know me. I don't know why.
This is Dr. She is a counselling psychologist, and she's got experience working with people who's had mental health issues. So can you just tell us your initial thoughts?
It's very interesting listening to the experiences that you've described, and it struck me as to sort of the number of things that happened over time that I think would have contributed to you feeling low. I'm very mindful to use the word depression, but the first thing that I wondered was, were you diagnosed as being depressive?
I don't think they officially diagnosed me, but I guess it was a diagnosis because there was a time on my way to work where I felt suicidal, and I was planning on ending my life, and yeah, it's a long story, but I ended up going to work anyway in the end and broke down in front of my manager, and I was still adamant that I was going to end my life, so she had to call the police. And then they took me to a clinical nurse who made me do a questionnaire or something, and he was like, oh yeah, you've got depression, I'm just going to refer you to a GP. And which he did, and the GP was very great, he was understanding, but he offered me, would you like therapy? Would you like medication? And I was like, no. I was like, I felt it was drastic for me. I didn't understand the symptoms, I didn't understand that this was a real thing. I thought I was being stupid.
But somebody said black people do not believe in depression. And one of the thoughts that came to my mind was, I'm not sure that we don't believe in depression or believe that depression happens. I think we have a different language to it. And our understanding of it, I think, is very different. I think somebody earlier mentioned something around religion and how we are, as people, we are very much religious in our ways, and so when you live in a Western world, there's more understanding around mental health and therefore possibly more awareness around mental health, which is where I guess, this campaign comes in really handy, where we're saying it's not your fault. So if something happens to you as a consequence of moving around, feeling unsettled, not settled in school, even though you're very academic, all of those things contribute to a perception of the world that you would have. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And the other thing around, us not having a language for depression, certainly we kind of, if you've been a witness of somebody talking to themselves, often I've heard people being referred to as, oh, they're crazy, they're mad, or they're possessed of sorts. Whereas in this country, when we see people talking to themselves, and talking to yourself in itself is not a mental health issue. I talk to myself all the time.
But don't tell anyone that you someday.
When it becomes an issue and impacts your daily functioning, and I think that's what's important to bear in mind here, is that we are all susceptible to mental health issues and challenges. Where it becomes an issue is when it starts to impact on our daily functioning, on our relationships, on going out, on going to work, on meeting friends, where none of those things you have no motivation for. That is when there is an issue, because we all go through stress and anxiety in the world we live in. Life is developed in that way. Survival is developed in that way. I think that the system itself is inherently racist, in so much as it should not be a standardized method of treatment for everybody, because one size does not fit all. And everybody has a different experience, and hence their reaction or interaction with medication and practitioners will be very different. In some of the experiences that I've had with clients, and it has been that there are certain medications that are only prescribed to Black people.
Name them for me, just in case I cross.
And the reason I would rather not do that is, like you said, you mentioned something earlier around, medication should not be demonized.
Yeah.
And I totally agree with that. I think that there's nothing wrong in taking medication. I think that if somebody is 100% supported in the medication they're taking, in understanding what the medication is, what is it doing, what are the side effects, when I want to come off, how do I come off? Can you help me come off the medication? If it's not working, what do I do? How do I transition into another medication? I think all of those things, if an individual or family can be supported around that, then it makes sense, that somebody uses medication to regulate some of the biological challenges that we might have in terms of the way the brain functions, or in terms of the way that, the mechanisms in our body work. But I think what sometimes is missing is the offer of talking therapy alongside that. Does that make sense? Because
Did you have any talking therapies?
I was offered that. I had a psychotherapist for about 2 years.
Okay.
Which is
right.
Great. Yeah.
So, it's a measure of balance between taking medication and, being able to talk about what's got you here in the first place, right? Because the medication doesn't necessarily resolve the experiences that you have. Those remain, and until you kind of figure it out, explore it, navigate through it, whatever it might be, then those will remain whether or not you're taking medication. The other thing I was going to say about with others is that you talked about sometimes not wanting to talk about what you've experienced with personal relationships, but you sound very confident in talking about it here and now. And I wonder what the sort of discrepancy is between being open to the relationships that you have and being open here.
I wonder if it's because I feel that there's something to lose maybe with a person that I am close to. Whereas strangers, okay, they don't like my story, they can move on. But if I want to like someone and want them to like me, I guess, I don't know.
A fear.
I just don't want them to. I feel like they're less understanding if they know me. I don't know.
Do you think it's got to do with intimacy?
Yeah.
That level of intimacy, obviously with us, when you're dealing with strangers or external people,
Yeah.
you don't. There's not that level of intimacy where you're building that.
Exactly that. I think that, and I don't want to worry them as well. Yeah, I think. Because I know I can go really low and then be fine 5 minutes later. Do you know what I mean? But that person's got that in their head now. Like, I don't want them to treat me differently. I don't want them to not be themselves. So there's a lot of tiptoeing I do around it. I don't know why. It's uncomfortable. It's so uncomfortable. Don't know why.
Have you been in a long-term relationship?
I was before the crisis, and yeah, I was open with him about it. He was very supportive, and that also helped me because it just made me feel like I am a normal person. Doesn't make me a weird person. They understand why that happened to me.
I think there's multiple facets to that. If we take away, first of all, the notion of mental health, any relationship is difficult because you have to work at it. You have to learn to build trust. You have to learn to build loyalty and honesty in that relationship. And often we feel shame, we feel less than, we don't feel deserving. We have engaged in patterns of behavior that means that we don't value ourselves as individuals, and we look to somebody else to validate us. I think that is, those are some of the concerns within any relationship, intimate or otherwise. And so when you add, challenges of mental health to it, those conditions can be exacerbated. And so, I guess I guess what I would advocate for and encourage is to be yourself, because whether or not somebody likes you doesn't matter, to be honest. If you're meant to be with somebody, then you will be with them. And it's about not taking responsibility for somebody else's actions or behavior. So you cannot be responsible for if somebody likes you or not. You can only be responsible for what your own actions and your own behavior. And it's a very difficult thing to say to somebody when you want somebody to like you and you want to fit in. We tend to engage in behaviors that allows us to fit in because we want to belong.
I love that you've pointed that out, because I feel like not just my mental health has affected my relationships, just knowing I have a history of depression and mania, but I feel like I've got to prove that I'm more than this illness now. It's precious to me, so I feel like I can't really show how much it affects me, because I'll even seem more. If that makes sense. Yeah. So.
And then I guess sometimes that contributes to the occurrence of the challenges that you may face, where parts of you are inherently saying, in some ways, you haven't fully accepted that this is a part of your experience. One of the things I heard you say earlier is, this doesn't define me, it doesn't define who I am. It is a part of an experience that you've had. It may be that it's an experience that you may continue to have. At the same time, what you're saying is, I can manage those experiences. I recognize when they're coming. I know what my coping mechanisms and strategies are to deal with when those situations are coming. And again, that goes back to being self-aware. That goes back to knowing yourself. That goes back to nobody knows you better than you know yourself. There are professionals that, like myself, who can help put a picture together in terms of all the experiences that you've had, the negative and the positive, and how all of those things have accumulated till today. But the point is, at the end of the day, as human beings, you know, part of the defense mechanism, as I was saying earlier, if you're looking to belong and wanting somebody to like you, is that there's this part of ourselves that wants to be protected and does not want to show that side of us. But again, that's not kind of looking at yourself holistically. It feels and sounds like segmenting, although it's a natural process. It's not something that's done sometimes consciously. I would encourage us to be a little bit more open about who we are, what we are, and if ultimately that person accepts you for who you are, then it kind of makes your relationship more transparent, where if you were having an episode, you wouldn't need to pretend that it wasn't happening. You wouldn't need to hide it away, right? And, you know, I do also have to say that being open also has its own challenges as well, you know, because the other person or your family member or whoever it might be will be worried about you and may look for signs when sometimes there's nothing to look out for, if you see what I mean.
I've had times like, oh, have you taken your medicine?
Yeah.
When I'm having an argument and I'm genuinely upset about something, and that is not nice, so...
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Yetunde, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was great that we had professional input on this, just to give a bit of perspective. So what are your thoughts now? So after having a discussion, Yetunde, after just talking about your experience with us, how does it feel?
I just had a free therapy session. Everything she said was bang on. It was on point, and it's almost as if she already knew me from somewhere else. So it's been really helpful actually for me to voice this, and I've never really spoke about the relationship aspect. It's just kind of in the back of my mind, and I just, like she said, segmenting things. So it's been amazing. Yeah. I just hope you got as much value as I did from this today.
I'm sure, honestly, I think you've been so honest and open, and I feel that, you know, there's a lot of people out there who's going to benefit from your experience, benefit from hearing, and also knowing that you haven't had another episode, so there's life beyond, right? And I think that's something that a lot of people out there would benefit from hearing, and seeing that you're thriving as well. So thank you so much for joining us, and thank you guys for watching us. Make sure you subscribe to this channel and share with all your friends and family. And
bye.
Thank you for watching our discussion today. We especially would like to thank the guest who spoke about her very, very personal experience. We really, really hope that having discussions like this and sharing individual experiences of their mental health will help to reduce the stigma of mental health within the AfroGlobal community. We ask that you subscribe to our YouTube channell. Thank you. We want to ask that you keep watching our discussions.